Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Authors on the Air, part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I'm James Latwell, your host, and with us today, we're lucky to have Kimberly Belle. Kimberly is, as you're gonna soon come to understand, she's a fantastic author of domestic suspense and suspense overall. You're really going to enjoy it. And her latest, The Paris Widow, we're going to feature today. So, welcome, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making the effort. Kimberly's over in Amsterdam right now, so there's a big time difference. So we really appreciate you making that effort. And while I'm
Yeah.
extending appreciations, Kimberly volunteered at Thriller Fest this year at Pitch Fest, and if you haven't been, that's where authors kind of pitch their wares to agents and editors and that kind of thing. And you being there made a big difference. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy seeing all the excitement in the room and from both sides, right? From
Yeah,
the
yeah.
authors and the agents. So it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and thanks again. But today we're going to talk about, your latest, and I think it was an instant USA Today bestseller when it hit. I mean, my God, it's just getting all kinds of buzz out there, and I'm so happy for you. But can you tell us a little bit about the Paris Widow?
Sure. So the Paris Widow is about a woman named Stella. She is on a vacation with her husband, Adam. They're wrapping up a 3-week kind of vacation of a lifetime through Europe, all the hot spots in Europe. And they're in Paris on their very last day, about to go back to their hotel and head to the airport to fly home when tragedy strikes and there's an explosion in the cafe where Adam is inside. And in the days and the chaos that comes afterwards, as Stella is trying to find Adam and figure out what happened, the police come to her and they say not just that he was one of the victims of the bombing, but the actual target.
Yeah, and that just kind of sets her world aflame. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, how did you come up with the idea? I mean, to put her immediately into this crisis, where she may not have known about her husband's, private life.
Right. I love starting a book with a bang, and this one is a literal bang.
Yeah,
I just think that in our genre, that's kind of a really fun way to start a book, just kind of throw you right in the middle of it. Um, and I always kind of tend towards, in all my other books as well, tend towards the husband-wife dynamic. I feel
yeah,
like that's something that's kind of universal. Even if you're not married, if you've never been married, you can still put yourself in the position where you understand what that would be like to be betrayed by this person that you share not just a roof, but also a bed with. And so I feel like that's just something that I keep coming back to. There are a million stories I could write about it. And so that's kind of where I started brainstorming for this particular story as well.
yeah. And you just kind of touched on it. The characters that you tend to really focus on, your protagonists in your books, tend to be these very strong women that they. And the one that really comes to mind is Dear Wife. I mean, that one
Mhm.
still sticks with me. I mean, it's really kind of a you watch this transformation over time over the book. What draws you to that kind of character in your work?
I think a couple of things. I think uh, people are much stronger than they think that they're going to be, or that they think
Yeah,
that they are, and then they get thrown into these circumstances where they have to, it's sink or swim kind of, and they rise to the occasion.
yeah,
But I also I love having because I actually have written a couple of books from with male characters' points of view. So I do write
mhm,
from a male character's point of view, and they're very important characters in Dear Wife, but also in this story, Adam's story is very important to the overall story. But really, my main characters are women, and I mean, because I am one, I guess.
yep,
But I also really like the idea of them not being saved, but saving themselves.
Yes.
somehow, and figuring out the mystery, or figuring out how to survive, or whatever it is in the book. I really like giving women that power. So that's why I that's why I tend to these kind of stories, I guess.
No, and you do it very effectively. I mean, it draws you right in. And Stella, in this case, I mean, she's a great character. You have a way of letting readers know what she's about very quickly, so they get invested into the story. How do you establish that kind of a character like Stella? She's very complex and some secrets of her own, but how do you establish that so quickly for your readers?
I don't think it takes multiple drafts for one, but I do. When I throw readers in with this story, starting it with a bang, really you're seeing how she responds
Yeah.
to the drama on the page, and how she um, kind of steps forward in a lot of ways. And I think, you can learn more about a character almost from their actions than from what they're thinking. And you get a lot of that from Stella as well in the beginning, and thinking back on her relationship with Adam and things that have happened in during their marriage. But I think you really get the biggest sense of a person by how they respond to the cards that they're dealt.
No, that makes perfect sense. And to watch her kind of evolve over the course of the book, and she really finds that strength that I don't think she knew that she had. By the end of the
Exactly.
book, she's
Yeah.
she's really a different person, and I
Right.
think you did really well with that.
Well, thank you. And she doesn't want to believe these things that she's hearing about her husband at first either. But, she's also smart enough to know that after she hears it a couple of times, and after she finds a couple of clues in his things, that maybe these people are not making all this up.
Yeah. Now, some of without giving up too much of the plot going on there, her husband may have been involved in some shady kinds of things. How much did you have to dive into that just to kind of understand that world and present it the way you did in the book?
I did a lot of research into so Adam's profession is he owns a store in Atlanta, and it deals in like reclaimed building materials. So, flooring, pretty windows, all those things and he sells them to architects and to builders.
Right. Right.
So as soon as I started like kind of thinking about that, I landed almost by accident on the business of blood antiquities, which goes very much hand in hand with the antiques business. Fortunately, unfortunately, unfortunately, but fortunately for my story. And there's so much. I mean, if you just Google blood antiquities and shenanigans like that are going on, you will have more information than you ever cared to know. And, I
Wow.
found a lot of things, fascinating things that didn't make it into the book, but a couple of really fascinating things did, including I have a character, Kat, who I call the art detective. She's kind of
Right.
the female version of Indiana Jones of the art world, the blood antiquities world. And she's based on a real life man. His name is Arthur Brandt, and he lives here in Holland. And a lot of the artifacts that I use in this book, the ring, for example, that Stella
Hmm.
finds in Adam's things, a lot of the antiquities that he's trading or not trading or accused of trading, they're real life things that Arthur Brand has tracked down, found, and returned them to their
Uh,
official owner. It's fascinating. If
that's
you Google him,
that is
it's
yeah.
Brand. He is fascinating. He has websites, he has TV series, he even wrote a book. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing adds a lot of texture to what you're describing here. And yeah, Kat is another great character that really adds a lot to the story as it starts to open up. It's
Mhm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, both Stella and Adam have a lot of secrets, about their past that they haven't shared. What is it about secrets that's so powerful?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier about, being betrayed because, I mean, every marriage has secrets. Everybody has secrets. Some of them are, not really that big of a deal. Some of them can be. And when those secrets kind of get discovered in a marriage, they can feel like a real betrayal. And I think everybody goes into a relationship or into any sort of relationship, whether it's marriage or friendship or whatever, thinking, I can forgive up to here. Here's my line in the sand.
Yeah.
And then once they're actually in the situation, that line in the sand can sometimes move. And that fascinates me as well. That's something that I always, kind of work into almost all my stories as well. It's like, I think that I am this kind of, I will forgive up to here. But then once you understand why they've kept these secrets, why they've done what they've done, a lot of times that can flip the script. And so I just think that's fascinating to kind of dive into in a story as well. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, the way you've kind of layered those secrets in, it's like you turn the page and it's, oh my God, he's been involved
Yeah.
in this, or she had this background. It was really, really this one. I mean, I love Dear Wife. That's probably one of my favorites of yours. But this one, I think you've outdone yourself. This is a fantastic read. It was
Thank
so much
you.
fun to read.
Thank you. I did love
Yeah.
writing it. And I got to go to Paris.
Yeah, I mean, and let's talk about that. I mean, this book in particular is so rich in setting and locale. I mean, the setting almost plays another character in this book.
Right.
Um, yeah, so you were able to go there and kind of walk through where Stella had been.
Yeah, yeah, and, I have these flashback scenes, I can't remember how many of them are, but, like, probably 6, 7 maybe, from places that they were visiting in the weeks prior to Paris, so I got to go to those places as well and work those in as well, but it's one of those, stories where, like you said, character really is a setting, and that's exactly how I wanted it to be. I think it would it's there's something about this armchair travel, no passport necessary, no danger that I mean,
Right.
I love reading those kinds of books, and so I really wanted to I've been kind of chomping at the bit to write a story set overseas for many, many books now, and my
Okay.
publisher has kinda held me back because you know, like my other stories are very Southern. They're set usually in Atlanta, where I,
Mhm.
live half the year. So I do know that city as well. But I was like, let me go overseas. It's such a fun, um, fun story to write for me to be able
Yeah.
to, work all these different places in. And there's something also about being in a foreign place where you don't really understand the language and the way things work. And then you get thrown into this disaster, kind of ups the suspense and the intrigue. So I really wanted to tackle that as well.
Yeah, no, I think you did that really well, and that did play, into the suspense and layering it like you did. Now, this one, as I was reading it, especially towards the end, would you ever consider turning this into a series? I mean, I'd love to see more Stella now that she's, transformed into something a little bit different. Any thoughts about bringing her back?
I haven't talked about it with my publisher. I do have yeah, I could see this story
Mhm.
going, and I know exactly how the next book opens. I think that, it would be Stella would definitely be a character that, has more to tell. I think Sully, one of my other characters, has a lot more to tell. He was a fun character to write. He's
Yeah.
the someone from Stella's past who probably lives on the edge of legalities and
Mhm.
illegalities. But
Yep.
he's very he's knowledgeable. He knows how things work. He knows the right people to help him get out of troubles. I think he would be an interesting character to bring into the next story as well.
Yeah, he added a whole new dimension and is a link to her past, which was really
Right,
kind of fun to write or to
right.
read anyway.
Yeah.
Any nibbles on TV and film for this book? I know you've had some success with
Yeah.
others, but this one,
Yeah,
anything?
this one I think would be a great series, don't you?
I do. Yeah, if
Yeah,
anybody in the film industry is listening, this one would I
yeah,
mean, it's written so cinematically. I mean, you can just throw yourself into this story and you can just picture everything.
yeah.
So I think
Well, fingers
it's
crossed.
ready made.
We're in talks with the studio,
Good.
so
Oh,
yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
Well, that's great news. Great news. So let's kind of s- put yourself. I'm going to ask you what we're calling three quick hits, and it's putting yourself in Stella's head. And I'm going to ask you just three quick questions and what comes to mind.
Okay.
Um, what's Stella's favorite cocktail?
Mm. Well, before this trip, I might have said something like a margarita, something very American-ish,
Uh-huh.
although it's not American, I guess, but very Atlanta, you know.
Right.
But now I think after the Paris Widow, I think it's probably gonna be a French 75.
75. I was thinking exactly. Good choices. How about Stella's favorite music? What does she listen to?
Mm. I think she's probably kind of all over the place with music. She probably likes the, European EDM kind of stuff, but
Okay.
also, old school, like, R&B, maybe some, John Legend. I'm kinda giving her
Okay.
my music tastes.
That's okay. And then finally, what do you think Stella's greatest fear is?
Hmm. I think also, this is kind of like the drink questions. Her greatest fears have changed since this
Yeah.
book. Um, I think before the book, maybe her greatest fear would be people finding out about some things in her past. But now, after this book, after that's kind of come out, um, yeah, her greatest fear is gonna be it's also gonna b I don't wanna give away anything in the book, but it's also gonna
Right.
be about, being discovered.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. If reading the book, I can definitely see that. Yeah, very good. Folks, we've been talking with Kimberly Belle. Kimberly, the author of The Paris Widow. Pick this one up. Do yourselves a favor. If you're into domestic suspense or just suspense novels overall, you can't go wrong with Kimberly. And this one is probably, like I said, one of the best. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for spending some time with us on Authors on the Air.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Good. And yeah, good evening to you. And I hope we see you again soon.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.